In education, it can be easy to get distracted at times by the latest shiny objects, the things that attract a lot of buzz and attention for their potential to impact kids, but often ultimately disappoint us. So our next speaker represents the total antithesis of that. Over the past 15 years, she's built some of the most effective high schools in the country, if not the world, by doing the hard work of driving real innovation in the ways schools function, impacting real teachers, real kids, in the thousands and soon to be tens of thousands. Diane Tavenner, CEO and co-founder of Summit Public Schools, has led her organization to focus relentlessly on what matters for students and to never stop iterating as they improve their model. And now Summit is modeling for our whole sector what collaboration across charters and district schools can look like through the sharing of Summit's platform and tools and practices through the Basecamp initiative. And this is really expanding our collective sense of what's really possible in education at scale. Summit and Diane get a lot of attention, but that's because their impact is real and it's growing every day. Please welcome Diane Tavenner, the CEO of Summit Public Schools.
It's really a pleasure to be here today. When I was in 3rd grade, my teacher called me out of the room one day, said she wanted to talk with me. And you know, when you're a 3rd grader, adults look very tall and big and they loom large. And I remember her standing there with arms crossed, looking down at me and saying, "Diane, you're really unfocused. You're not paying attention. You're lazy, you're not doing your work, and you're not clean. And I'm talking to you because if you don't change your behaviors, your future isn't very bright." And what my teacher didn't know that day was that there had been another fight at home that week. And this one was bad. My mom was hurt, and the police had taken my dad. And pretty much all I could think about is what would happen when he got back. And in fact, I was so worried about that, I hadn't bathed because I didn't want to get caught in a vulnerable position. What I didn't have that day was a voice. I couldn't tell her my story. I couldn't ask for help. And I didn't have the power to change my circumstances. Statistically speaking, I shouldn't be standing here today. I became a teacher because I wanted to help kids like me. I thought that I could get to know them and their stories, that I'd be able to help change their circumstances and defend them when they needed defending. But what I learned very quickly is with 35 students coming through a room in 50-minute intervals, it's nearly impossible to get to know them. And the few who I did know their stories, the help that I could give seemed fleeting. And most often, it wasn't even what they wanted, because they wanted the same thing that I had wanted as a 3rd grader. They wanted their own voice. And they wanted to be empowered to change their own circumstances and control their own lives. And so, what I learned pretty quickly was that teachers aren't set up for success, and schools aren't designed to empower people. And so, like many people who are at the start of their education career, I started making plans to leave the profession. And that's when I got a call. By then, my dad had moved on, divorced my mom, and remarried. And what I learned in that call is that he had killed his 2nd wife. She was 5 years older than me. Her name was Lori. She was a high school dropout. I went back to teaching with a renewed sense of purpose and a commitment that I carry with me every single day. This is a hard story. It was a hard story to live, it's a hard story to tell, and I know it's a hard story to listen to. And so I tell it because all of us who want to change education, every single one of us, if we don't know exactly why we want to change it, if we don't know exactly what the purpose of education is, we have absolutely no chance of getting the how right. I ask myself 3 questions every single day. Is this the school that I would want to teach in? Is this the school that I wish I could have gone to? And is this the school that I would have sent my own child to? And those are the 3 questions I asked myself when I started Summit Public Schools 15 years ago. We launched with a vision that we could equip every single student to live the life they want to live a good life, to live a life that's filled with purpose, that is filled with relationships that are strong, with engagement in the community, that they could live a life that was healthy, and that they could be financially stable and secure. Today, that vision is real. In 11 schools in 2 states, Washington and California, we serve over 3,000 incredibly diverse students. Summit ranks among the best schools in the nation. We've won design challenges like XQ and been named by Fast Company as one of the most innovative companies in the world, which I always find funny because we're not even a company. Because we have designed our schools to ensure that every single student leaves equipped for the life that they want to live, 98% of our graduates are accepted to at least 1 4-year college, and they finish college at a rate that is 2 times the national average. So how do we do this? How do we go about creating schools that get these kinds of results? We start by thinking about and understanding what students who are leaving us and going into adulthood need. What do they need to be equipped to take advantage of an opportunity to live the life that they want to live? I want to introduce you to one of our students who attends Summit Prep in Redwood City. His name is Edgar, and so let's meet Edgar.
My name is Edgar Anaya, and I'm currently a junior at Summit Prep in Redwood City. I just turned 17 in April. I would say my family's a little bit complicated. My mom had me at 16, so it was really hard for her. Her and my dad weren't always connected when I was young. My parents got divorced when I was about 5 or 6, and so it was pretty hard growing up. Before Summit, I went to school at a regular middle school. There was a lot of older people that were abusing drugs, and there was a lot of people that were in gangs. It wasn't a place where I could really thrive. And so my aunts and my uncles have actually been to Summit. All these people around me that were family, they were thriving at Summit. And so my mom wanted the same for me. I feel like at Summit, even on the first day, a lot of people care about you there. Everyone's a little bit more connected.
So what does it take to create schools that help kids like Edgar realize their dreams, and millions of other kids who are like him in many ways and very different from him in others? Well, it takes 4 things. First, we have to believe that students are capable of so much more than we've been led to believe they're capable of. We have to equip teachers with the skills that they need. We have to design great schools, and we have to give people the tools to do the job that we need them to do. Our students are capable of so much, and yet we don't ask them to live up to that capability. We need to broaden the outcomes that we expect from students and that we expect our schools to equip them with. The good news is we have an abundance of science today that tells us exactly what those skills are and what they need. And so Summit, based on the science that we have incredible access to through amazing partnerships with some of the most phenomenal scientists in the country, have worked on developing the 4 outcomes that all students need to achieve by the time they leave us and go into the world. And those outcomes begin with a set of skills, broad skills that are lifetime skills that get applied in multiple contexts. Let me give you an example of some of those skills. We're talking about knowing enough about something to be able to make a claim, to back that claim with evidence, and then to be able to make an argument around that claim. We're talking about the ability to know something so well that you can make a hypothesis, that you can design an experiment around that hypothesis, gather the data, interpret it, and draw a conclusion from that. Real skills that real people use in real work every single day. But you can't just do skills in a vacuum. And so in order to hypothesize and analyze, kids actually need to know some stuff. In fact, they need to have knowledge about a broad set of content. And so we need to ensure that our kids are learning a whole broad set of content, but more importantly, that they're learning the skills to learn for the rest of their lives. Because no matter how much they learn and no matter how much they apply it while they're with us, they'll never know everything they need to know for the rest of their lives. The third thing they need is a set of habits that they can deploy in their life. And we draw inspiration from what employers actually need and what they're asking for from their workers. The top 3 things employers are looking for are the ability to work collaboratively, the ability to make good decisions, and the ability to, I've forgotten what it is right now. Let me see. Work on teams. So how do you develop those skills? How do you practice those skills as adults? You have to build them as habits, and you build habits by practicing them every single day in an environment that provides a lot of rich feedback and that is a safe environment. And so our students work in groups constantly. They learn to manage complex relationships with diverse people and to put their knowledge to work in complex tasks. And the final thing that our students need when they leave us is to have a sense of purpose. Purpose starts with the ability to explore a whole bunch of different interests, the ability to go deeper and dive into those interests and find what sticks. Purpose comes about when people have the opportunity to examine their values and think about what they care about and what matters to them, and develop this self-knowledge and then put it to use to create a vision for themselves for the future. And then, of course, we need to help everyone develop a credible path towards that vision. And I believe, as a K-12 education system, we need to ensure that when every single student leaves us, that they take that first credible step on that pathway they've designed for themselves. These are the 4 things that students need to leave us with if they're going to be set up for success. And so to make that happen, we need to equip our teachers to create and curate the environments and the experiences that will enable our students to develop all these skills and these habits and this learning. This doesn't happen easily. Teaching is a really tough job, and it doesn't happen overnight that you develop the skill set that we're talking about. And that's why Summit teachers spend 40 to 50 days a year, every single year, honing their craft and developing their skills. And that's why they are in an environment that is focused on giving them feedback so that they can grow and develop and learn, not so that they can be judged and evaluated. We need to design great schools. Teachers can't do the work that they're doing and need to do in environments that aren't designed to set them up for that success. And so this is the moment where you can really tell the difference between a reformer and a transformer, or a tinkerer and an innovator. Because if you're going to design schools that actually do all the things I've just been talking about, they have to look very differently than what most schools look like today. Let me give you just one example of that difference. Today, if you go into most traditional schools, the learning is variable for students, but the time is fixed. And this is very familiar to all of us. I'm sure we all have had the experience of a pretty standard cadence in a school where a teacher introduces a unit, there's a series of classroom lectures and activities and homework assignments, and at some point on a given day at a given time, students are tested to see what they've learned, and then they're evaluated, and in the meantime, they've moved on to the next unit. The time is what's fixed. The learning for all those students is variable. In a redesigned school, it is the learning that is fixed and the time that is variable. Students actually learn, they master, they become competent, and the time is not what is the determining factor there. But in order for this to happen, they need support and guidance and the ability to develop their skills so they can drive their own learning, and that comes through one-to-one mentoring, a really focused effort to make those skills come to life and become a reality for students. And finally, even if you have a good environment, and even if teachers are empowered and have built skills around this, if they don't have the right tools, they can't do the work. And so we need to equip teachers with the tools they need in order to create these types of learning experiences, and we need students to be equipped with the tools they need in order to drive their own learning. And so this is exactly what we set out to do with the Summit Learning Platform, a platform that allows teachers to curate incredible experiences, leverage data to intervene and mentor and coach, and analyze that data so that they can create new approaches in different directions and coach their kids. That's what the tool is designed to do. So let me tell you what this actually looks like in practice when you put it all together from a parent perspective. It turns out that my son, who is 14 years old, goes to one of our schools and has been there for 4 years. And so this past fall, I got a call to go to a conference, an international conference, and they said, we're really focused on kids, so can you bring a student with you? And I'm pretty, most people wouldn't call me risk averse, but I wasn't about to bring someone else's child to Bulgaria with me. And so I said, I'm happy to bring my own. He's actually a Summit kid. And so they said, great, do that. About 3 weeks before the conference, I get another call, and they say to me, we had really wanted Todd Rose to come and present the end of average and the concepts in the end of average around individuality, but he can't come. But we were thinking it would be even better if a student could present those ideas. Do you think your son could prepare a 10-minute TED Talk for the conference? And I'll be honest with you, in that moment, I did not have my educator hat on. I had my parent hat on, and I was doing what I think most of us would do, which is running through my head, oh my gosh, he's gonna have to read the book, he's gonna have to understand all the concepts, he's gonna have to write a speech, he's gonna have to prep. I don't have time to do all of that. I'm traveling for the next 3 weeks. Fortunately, my educator brain took over in that moment and said out loud, well, that's not my choice. I'll have to ask him. I'll get back to you. So I check in with him that night, and I say to him, Rhett, here's this opportunity. And if you're a parent, you may have seen this happen with your child at some point. He got that little smirky smile on his face that said to me, I've been waiting for you to ask me to do something like this. And immediately said yes. And I immediately started telling him all the reasons why he should probably say no. And he looked at me and he said, Mom, I got this. This is what we do every day at school. Remember, you made Summit. This is what we do. All right, So I went on my merry way, and about 3 days before we're scheduled to leave, I was in DC at a meeting, happened to be in the meeting with Todd Rose, and a Google Doc pops in, and it's from him. And it says, "Hey, Mom, thought you might like to see my speech. I'm practicing right now. It's going to be great." And so with a very fluttering heart, I open the document, and I start reading. I was an English teacher. I'm a pretty critical reader. And I start thinking, this is not so bad. Wow, he actually kind of got this. Did he write this himself, I wonder? Of course, I saw all the comments from his teachers and his peers who'd been peer editing and things, so I did know he wrote it himself. I got up enough courage to send it over to Todd in the same room, and then I kept watching him to see if he was going to look at it and hitting refresh a bunch of times. And after a few minutes, a comment pops up from him. And it says, "Hey, Rhett, this is really good. It's really good. Can I help you? Would you like to borrow my slides? And oh, by the way, hurry up and graduate. We could really use you in the lab." That's what it looks like. And it makes me wonder, as I think about what it felt like in that moment to be a mom, what would it be like if every single child in our country could go to a school like the one Edgar and Rhett go to? And this is actually not a rhetorical question. I'd really love for you to take a second right now and just imagine our country if every single child went to a school like this. What would it be like? When I imagine that country, it's the country I want to raise my son in. It's the country I want to leave to future generations. The school that I wished I could have gone to, the school I wished I could have taught in, and the school that I do send my child to. So, what's next? Well, it's great that we do this in our own schools, but I've always believed that charter schools are designed to be incubators of innovation, and we have an obligation to share those innovations with the rest of the education system. And so, yes. And so for the past decade, we have had a very open approach to things. We've toured thousands of people. We've tried to be as honest as we could about what is hard and what's challenging and what didn't work and what did work. And we've tried to share. But when people come and ask, can we do this? It is really difficult despite your best intentions. And we found ourselves sort of emailing around some PDFs and really not making much of a dent. But fortunately, we live where we live in Silicon Valley, and we have access to people who think about how you can actually scale this in different ways than the way we traditionally think about it in schools. And so we were able to team with one of the most amazing engineering teams in the world and build this Summit Learning platform. And that platform contains our curriculum and assessment. We've been able to put training and support around that and offer for free to any school in the country who wants it the ability to have this set of tools and to do Summit Learning to offer these types of schools. And so 2 years ago, we worked with 19 schools and about 2,500 students in 10 states across the country to bring Summit Learning to their communities. This year, we've been working with 132 schools in 27 states and about 20,000 students doing the same thing. And I'd love to share with you one story of one of our phenomenal partners. And this is the group in Pasadena, Texas. They visited us for several years before the Summit Learning platform was available and always asked, how can we do this? How can we do this? We have a vision that we want all of our kids to be equipped for the future, and we need your help. We need your tools in order to make that possible. And so in the first year, 3 of their schools joined us in partnership. And next year, we'll have 23 of the schools in Pasadena, Texas, working with us and partnering with us to make Summit Learning better. So, this fall, we will actually launch several hundred more schools in the Summit Learning Platform. They are incredibly diverse. They represent suburban, urban, rural, and every possible population of student that you can imagine. But they are committed and united by one common thing, and that is we are all deeply passionate about ensuring that every single student in this country has the opportunity to add an education that equips them for the life that they want to lead. And so as I wrap up here today, I want to ask you, as you think about whatever it is that you're working on, whether it be an investment or an assessment of a tool you're going to use or a design you're going to make for your school, if you will think about the why behind it and the purpose, and if you will deeply consider that, because I don't want us to lose track of why we're doing what we're doing. And I will come back to where I started, which is unless we know that why, and why we want to change public education, we are never going to get the how right. And so I am often called the crazy lady in the room, which is fine because I am a little crazy. Crazy in the same way that when I was in 3rd grade, I was not clean. And that is, the difference is today I have a voice. And so what I'd like to ask all of you to do with that voice is to be just crazy enough to join me in doing what it takes to create the schools that all of our kids deserve. Thank you.